Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure to be back.
So as we head into the holiday season, we often find ourselves thinking about how to make them meaningful, right?
Absolutely. It's a time for reflection and celebration.
And that's what we're diving into today, specifically for Diwali. We came across this really interesting article about celebrating in a way that's both joyous and easy on the planet.
It's a conversation happening across cultures, really. How do we honor traditions while being mindful of their impact, especially in a changing world?
Exactly. And this article really digs into that, especially when it comes to, well, one of Diwali's most, shall we say, explosive elements,
Yeah.
fireworks. Because let's face it, there's something magical about a good fireworks display.
Oh, absolutely. The vibrant colors, the excitement, the sheer spectacle.
Right. But this article made me stop and think about the bigger picture. What goes into creating that dazzling display?
It's about looking past the immediate beauty, the oohs and ahs, and understanding the longer term consequences.
And what kind of consequences are we talking about?
Well, for starters, the air pollution. The article highlights how significant it is from firecrackers, even the ones marketed as green.
Really? I always thought those were supposed to be better for the environment.
They are, in a sense, they're designed to produce less smoke, which is great, but
There's a but coming, isn't there?
there is, because even the green ones still release harmful gases, like sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. And those have been linked to a whole host of respiratory issues, especially for vulnerable populations like children and the elderly.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know if I had asthma or breathing difficulties, those gases wouldn't be good news.
Exactly.
And it's not just the air quality, is it? What about the noise? I seem to recall reading something about noise pollution being a major downside of fireworks.
You're absolutely right. The article talks about how stressful those sudden, loud bangs can be, especially for animals. Pets hiding in fear, wildlife getting disoriented. It can even cause damage to their hearing.
It's like that whole debate around those massive public fireworks displays versus opting for smaller, quieter celebrations at home. It's a tough one, for sure. But getting back to the article, they also brought up something that really surprised me, the debris from fireworks. I always assumed it was just, paper and cardboard that eventually biodegrades,
It would be great if that were the case, but
but it's not.
it's often a lot more complicated than that, unfortunately. We're talking about tiny bits of plastic, chemicals used in the manufacturing process, things that don't break down easily and wind up polluting our soil and water.
So even after the festivities are over, the environmental impact lingers.
Exactly. The party's over, but the planet's still dealing with the aftermath. And then there's the safety issue. I mean, every year we hear those stories about firecracker accidents, especially involving children. Is that really as common as it seems? It's a sad reality. The article mentions how hospitals see a surge in burn injuries and other accidents during Diwali, and tragically, many of them do involve children. It's a sobering thought.
It really is, especially when you think about how preventable these incidents are. But what I found particularly interesting was the article's point that fireworks, historically speaking, aren't even really part of the original spirit of Diwali.
That's right. Diwali is ultimately a celebration of light, symbolizing the triumph of good over evil, knowledge over ignorance.
Right, and traditionally that was celebrated with diyas, those little clay lamps. It's a much softer, gentler form of light than the explosive bursts of fireworks, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It has a completely different energy, doesn't it?
It feels a lot more in tune with Diwali's overall message of peace and harmony. So if fireworks are a relatively recent addition to the tradition, where did that shift come from?
Well, it's a complex evolution, really. There are a lot of factors at play: cultural shifts, commercial interests, even technological advancements, making fireworks more accessible.
That makes sense. Just because something's become tradition doesn't mean it can't evolve, especially with new information. Speaking of tradition, one of the things I loved about this article was its emphasis on rediscovering the beauty of those traditional diyas, using them for decoration instead of going for the plastic or synthetic stuff.
Absolutely. It's about making conscious choices. Instead of those plastic trinkets that end up in landfills, imagine you have these beautiful, handcrafted decorations that actually connect you to the essence of Diwali.
And they're biodegradable. It's a win-win.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop there. Think about using natural materials like flowers for Rangoli designs. Not only is it visually stunning, but also so much better for the environment.
It's funny you should mention that. I was just thinking about the article's suggestion of making homemade treats using local ingredients instead of opting for the usual store-bought sweets that come wrapped in all that plastic.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a fantastic idea. Not only are you reducing your carbon footprint by using local ingredients, but you're also supporting local farmers and producers. And let's be honest, nothing beats the taste of homemade goodies, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just about the taste, it's about the experience, the memories. I don't know about you, but I always think back to those Diwali holidays spent in the kitchen with family. The aroma of spices filling the air. It adds a whole other layer of meaning to the celebration.
It really does. It brings back those warm, fuzzy feelings.
Exactly. Speaking of warmth, the article touched on something that I found really interesting. The idea of sustainable gifting. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that idea. It's about shifting the focus from material possessions to more mindful gestures. Imagine giving a handcrafted gift, a beautiful plant, maybe even donating to a good cause in someone's name. It's a way to show you care while aligning your actions with your values.
It's about making those gifts more meaningful, more personal.
Person.
I also liked how the article highlighted community involvement and experiences over just buying more stuff. What were some of their suggestions in that area?
Well, they had some great examples, like organizing a tree planting event in your local community, or even participating in a neighborhood cleanup. Imagine taking all that festive energy and putting it towards something that benefits everyone.
It's about coming together as a community, really embracing that spirit of togetherness that Diwali represents. And even if people aren't able to organize something on a large scale, even those small acts of kindness can make a world of difference, right? Like visiting an elderly neighbor with some of those homemade treats we talked about, maybe volunteering at a local charity. It all adds up.
Absolutely. It's about realizing that our individual choices, even within the context of a cultural celebration, can contribute to something much larger than ourselves.
It's about recognizing that interconnectedness, that ripple effect our actions can have. So if someone listening to this is thinking, okay, I want to make a change this Diwali. I want to take a step towards a more sustainable, more meaningful celebration. What would you say is the single most impactful thing they could do?
It is a tough one. There are so many amazing options to consider. But if I had to pick just one thing, the most impactful change would be saying no to firecrackers this Diwali.
Really? Even those green ones we were talking about earlier.
Even those. Because even though they might be slightly better, they still kind of reinforce this idea that celebration needs to be this big, noisy spectacle. And that often comes at the expense of, well, everything we've been talking about, the environment, our health, even the true spirit of Diwali.
That's such an interesting way to look at it. So it's not about just finding slightly less harmful fireworks. It's more about changing how we think about celebrating all together. What would that even look like a Diwali without firecrackers?
Just picture it. The air is clean and fresh, and the streets are bathed in the warm glow of diyas. And instead of all those explosions, you hear laughter, music, the sounds of families coming together, sharing stories as they light their diyas.
I love that. You can practically feel that sense of peace and connection radiating outward, not just within families, but throughout the whole community.
It's a beautiful thought, but it doesn't have to start there. Imagine if, instead of loud fireworks, we put that energy into acts of generosity and kindness, maybe share a meal with someone in need, volunteer sometime, or just try to be a source of light in someone's life, you know?
It's like that idea of paying it forward, but infused with the spirit of Diwali. Instead of just a spectacle of lights and sound, it's a celebration of generosity and compassion.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true joy, the kind that really lasts, comes from doing things that lift up not just ourselves, but the world around us.
Wow, that's a powerful message to end on. It's not just about changing how we celebrate Diwali. It's about changing how we approach life in general, more mindfully, more compassionately. This deep dive has really given me a lot to think about. Hopefully our listeners feel the same. Wishing everyone a joyous, meaningful, and sustainable Diwali.